Hi, this video is about how to change domains easily for better SEO rankings. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to leverage the most powerful SEO factor, your domain name, and how to avoid the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make when changing their domain names there, especially where picking the wrong domain name, or if they already have some rankings but they want to improve them. A lot of times when a domain name is changed, they lose those rankings. How to avoid that. So about me, my name is David Hood, and I've made well over $1 million online, mostly the vast majority with SEO. And I'm on a mission to help at least 10,000 people make their first million online. So how much does domain name really matter? There's a lot of discussion out there about this, but the short answer is that it matters a lot. Google determines you only get one domain name, and it can only be so long. And Google determines a lot about what your site about is about by domain name. Now, that said, you don't have to have search phrases or keywords or parts of search phrases in your domain name. But if you don't, then you're going to have to make up for it in other areas. So if you think about it, like there's a bunch of different levers you can pull. Yeah, you don't have to pull the domain name lever, but it's going to be the single biggest from a work and cost standpoint. It's going to give you the most value, especially early on, and especially if your domain name is really off. Now, Amazon.com doesn't have. It ranks for all sorts of things, but they have tons of off-page SEO authority. And so basically that's going to be one of the main places that you're probably going to have to make this up. But if you have a really aggressive domain name, you need a whole lot less authority. We're not talking like a little bit less. We're not talking 10% less. We're talking about 2 to 10x typically. And again, it depends on a lot of different factors. But you can also rank a whole lot faster. So you get a better domain name, and instead of ranking in 12 to 24 months, you rank in 6 to 12 months. So it can make a huge difference. Now, and a lot of people, there used to be this big thing where a lot of people in SEO, they just did exact match, what's called an exact match domains, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And then there were specific algorithms specific Google parts of their algorithm that targeted that. And so people kind of went away from that. But they kind of did miss the point. And so actually, I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, I do want to go into, a lot of people think, I've talked to a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't want to change my domain name. It means I need to change my business name. I need to change my logo. I need to change all this stuff. Oh, it sounds like a huge hassle. Do I need to change my design? No, you don't need to change any of that. There's plenty of businesses that have a domain name that's different than their actual business name. You don't need to even file a DBA. We'll check with a lawyer on that. I'm not a lawyer, but I've got tons of websites and I didn't file a DBA, so I don't think that there's any requirement, at least at the time of shooting this video, for that. Obviously, check with a lawyer first, but even if you have to file a DBA or whatever, it's well worth it in my opinion, which I think it's very unlikely that you do. And so a lot of times business owners, when I would recommend a domain name change, they get this big, huge thing. It's like, oh, I spent all this time and energy on my website. And it's like, yeah, you get to keep your current website. Nothing of that changed. But just, how hard is it? They think it's like super hard, but actually it's more like, I wanted to go down here. It's more like copy paste. You're kind of just like moving your site from one direction to another and then pointing your registrar at the new site, at the new location. Now, not all website is this easy. There can be specific custom coding that makes this more complicated, but most sites that I interact with, it is pretty easy. Now, especially if you have WordPress, there are plugins that make this really super simple and just like a 5 to 10 minute thing once you have like your hosting set up properly. And again, it also can depend on your host, and there's so many different hosts out there and they all have different settings. By and large, it is typically easy with the host, but sometimes, again, host settings make it complicated. But usually your host will help you. If it is complicated, they'll help you with it. Because you can use the same hosting account and just say, hey, I want to host this domain and this domain now. Okay, so I did cover up above, I talked about EMDs and PMDs. And first of all, an EMD is an exact match domain. So if someone searched bulk office supply, then bulkofficesupply.com is an EMD, okay, an exact match domain. And a lot of people think they look spammy, and they do in a lot of ways. It's not always true, because if you think about it from Google's standpoint, they're also thinking about brands. If I search Coca-Cola, that's is Coca-Cola.com an exact match domain? No, that's a branded search and their domain name is a branded domain. Okay, so in Google, you can actually make it, if you do this right. EMDs are very difficult to get done right, but they're very powerful. And if you do it right, you can actually make Google think that your like bulk office supply is your brand name. And it might actually be. There are plenty of like Dallas Plumbing Company that's their actual brand name. There's actually a company out there that before Google was around, I believe they were Dallas Plumbing Company. It just turns out that's really useful from an SEO standpoint. A PMD is what's called a partial match domain. It's where you have part of your keywords in there, or you have some additional words in there. That is actually my recommendation for most businesses. This is going to make the most sense, because exact match domains can often look spammy. Like if you had DallasPersonalInjuryAttorney.com, you're going to be able to rank that pretty well, but I would guess that it's going to have a lower click-through rate, and it's not going to convert as well. So what I prefer to do is to not put cities in if you have a local business, but also to do sort of put at least one flavor word in there, and then do your like main keyword or part of a keyword in your domain name. So for example, with Dallas SEO Geek, Dallas SEO is my main keyword, and then geek is sort of like my flavor word. And there's a lot of benefits to this. It makes it a lot easier to do SEO and a lot less risky. Than EMDs can be very risky. There's sort of a fine line that you're walking where if you go on one side, you fall off a cliff. If you go on the other side, you reach treasure. I don't typically like things that are kind of all or nothing like that. With a PMD, it's a lot safer. You can build like a brand. There's a whole lot of other benefits while still you get most of the value that you get with an EMD with a PMD. So if you had joesbulkofficesupply.com, that's a PMD in a way. I mean, some people would call that an EMD, but I would call that a PMD, or whatever it's called. It doesn't matter. It's got some brand in there to make it more engaging and make it more likely to be clicked on and make it more likely to convert into your visitors into customers. Okay, so that would be my recommendation. But there's lots of people that go the other way and they have no keywords in their domain. So they'll have like Joe's Company, and it's a bulk office supply, company. And, that is bad as well. I wouldn't say it's bad, because sometimes there's branding decisions that matter. And you think, some people might think, oh, well, I have these on business cards. Actually, that doesn't matter. So that's something that is automatically taken care of. I'll talk about that in a second. But there can be bigger, more important business priorities that supersede the domain name. Okay, I'm just talking about from a purely SEO standpoint, having Joe's Company when Joe and Company are not in any of your main search phrases that you want to target. It's not impossible to rank, but it's going to leave you way behind the curve. You're going to need a whole lot more off-page SEO. You're going to need to be really optimized in other ways. It's just going to be more expensive and take longer. And why do that to yourself when you really don't need to? Okay, so if you have a poorly optimized domain and you want to change to a new domain, it's really not that complicated. You need to do what's called a through and redirect, which essentially tells the internet that I was here and now I'm here. And so even if you have Joe's Company on business cards and then you want to search to joesbulkofficesupply.com, it would immediately, if someone were to type in joescompany.com, it would immediately take them to joesbulkofficesupply.com right away, like instantly. And the vast majority of people wouldn't notice, and of the few people that do notice, they just don't care. I mean, it would still have like your branding, Joe's Company, Joe's Bulk Office Supply, or Joe's Company, or whatever your branding would still be at the top. It would look exactly the same. And so that's what a 301 redirect is. It basically tells the internet what this page or website that was here is now permanently moved to here. There is something called a 302 redirect. That's like a temporary redirect. You don't want to do that. If your site is already ranking for something, but you want to rank it better, this is also going to pass any authority. So if you have links pointing to your site, it's going to pass that link juice, the vast majority of it, right along with it. Now, there's a big mistake that a lot of people do when they're moving to a new domain. What they'll do is they will 301 redirect either just the homepage to homepage, like root domain to root domain, or they'll 301 redirect the whole domain to the new root domain. So what that would mean would be like olddomain.com page 1 goes to new domain.com. And page 3, page 2, page 3. Well, some people, all they do is just do olddomain.com. It goes to newdomain.com, and then these would actually 404. That is really bad. 404 basically means page not found. This is better, but not as good. What you want is let's pull this down. So this is bad. Let's cross this out. 2/page1, 2/page2, 2/page 3. Okay, so this is going to be much better. It's going to preserve the power and the authority of your site a lot better. And what happens is, so you have this is sort of like the case, the worst case, which is old domain. Let's actually do this. We're going to do 244 error. Okay, this is really bad. And this happens a lot, actually. You know, all the page, let's do page X. And this is better, but still suboptimal, and this is maximally optimal. This keeps the vast majority of your link juice. Also, you have to consider that rankings will change because this text right here might actually be pretty different, because what is correct here could change based upon what's in the domain name, because you don't want to like repeat things too many times. Ideally, you don't want to repeat things at all. And sometimes it's okay to, but other times you don't, and so the inner URL might actually change, which is fine, but it can affect things. It can just kind of make a mix-up of things. So hopefully that helps. Definitely let me know if you have any questions. Like this video if you liked it, or leave a comment below if you have any questions about, you know, how to execute this, or if you have any issues with doing this. Let me know. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye.